Welcome to the next countdown to Cybersec Fireside Chat. My name is Magdalena Petroniak. I'm the Communication Advisor to Kościuszko Institute, organizer of the Global Cybersecurity Forum, Cybersec. And today my guest is Professor Carsten Maple, Professor of WMG at the Warwick University. Welcome, Professor.
Hi, good to see you.
Yeah, it's great having you here. So in these short talks, we would like to familiarize our audience with the key discussion panels and our speakers. Therefore, I would like to ask you a few questions regarding your panel, which is Hacking Humans, Threats to Digital Identity, which will take place on the 28th of September at 2:15 Central and Eastern Time. So the theme itself, the theme of the panel might sound a bit futuristic. However, we are all surrounded by technologies that collect a lot of our data, human data. So can you elaborate shortly on what hacking human is?
Well, one of the things is, as you mentioned, there's a lot of data collected about us. And hacking is disrupting the way that something's supposed to work properly. So how can this data that's collected about us be used against us in certain ways? And that's the essence of what we want to explore.
Got you. So can you give some examples of what are the ways that our data can be exposed to threats?
Yeah, well, there's a number of different ways that data is arrived at. So sometimes, and the most common is that we might provide some data to someone. So we may post something on Facebook or Instagram or whichever social media site. We might provide it through a form, but actually increasingly data is collected around us. Yeah, so it might be observed. So we've seen recently live facial recognition, where cameras capture our image and compare it to databases of suspects in criminal cases. So what's happening now is a lot of data is generated by us without us being active. It's more passive. And that can be used to create harms against us.
I hear you. A lot of data is actually given by us. We volunteer to give our data to, different applications, especially now when, during the coronavirus pandemic, we are sometimes encouraged to use the contact tracing apps. So what can be the threats to our digital identity?
Yeah, I think contact tracing is very relevant at the minute, and it's something we're certainly going to explore later in the month. So I advise people to come and listen to that, but I'll give you an overview. Yeah. One of the things is right now, the way contact tracing works is it collects a network of people that I have been in contact with if I am found to have contracted coronavirus. And that's one of the important things in the design that changed. It doesn't collect everybody's contact, but at least one of the restrictions is say, okay, if you have been found to have coronavirus, how do we detect who you've been in contact with? Now, it's designed in such a way that all that is known is a phone number, and it's not known by the government in most cases, but it's a way that we can give up some of our privacy in a sense. So people can contact us on our phones so that we might be protected. And that should be just in this specific case right now.
I hear you. There is so much misinformation and disinformation around, data collection. So many people are just not aware of what's going on, who owns their data, the data we provide to different applications. So I think that will be very interesting part of the discussion during the panel that you and our great guests will conduct on the 28th of September. I do have another question. You are involved in a number of research projects and advisory boards. From your perspective, what can we do to minimize the risk of exploitation of our data and hacking our minds?
So the first thing I would say, and this is really interesting for anybody who's watching, I think, is to look at what we call threat modeling. Who is really going to try and disrupt this system, or who is going to try to compromise your privacy? Yeah. And it could be a nation state that wants to compromise the privacy of another nation. It could be an ex-partner who wants to find out what you are doing. But the first thing we do is we model the privacy and say, what kind of access do they need to have to find out things about you? Once we do that, we can invoke something called privacy enhancing technologies. And these are used in some of the contact tracing apps that are around the world now. So what we can do is we can make sure that data doesn't necessarily travel from my phone, in the case of an app, to the central server. Rather, it stays on my phone. So, for example, with that contact tracing, what happens is those people that have been infected, that list is sent to my phone, and my phone then just checks, was I in contact with the person who had this anonymous identifier? Yeah. So that is a privacy enhancing technology, and there are many more that are being used and will really try to protect us in the future.
That's a critical element of the discussion around, hacking and providing our data. So I cannot wait to listen to that panel. So maybe the last question about the leitmotif of this year's edition of Cybersec, which is Together Against Adversarial Internet. From your perspective, how can public and private sectors, independent experts, and academia work together to secure cyber safety?
I think you've touched on it about working together. And what's really important is no individual group on their own can do this. It's not just policy that can do it. It's not just the tech companies, and it's not just academics, but we need to come together. And this is what we're hoping to do in this Cybersec, is what we're trying to do is come together to really address this adversarial internet that we've created.
Yeah, we hope everyone joins us at your session, Hacking Humans, on 28th of September.
I think that the session will feature some great people and me, and I hope there'll be some fantastic discussions. So I encourage anyone who's watching, go and watch that. I'll be there and I'll enjoy it, and I hope to hear from you in that session.
Wonderful. Cannot wait to listen to the session live. We encourage everyone to click on the registration link and book your front row seat at the Cybersec 2020. See you soon. Thank you.
This season on Cybersec, Digital World in Times of COVID-19. Dreams about geopolitical technological supremacy, cyber battle between red and blue states, scary potential of hacking humanity. Cybersec community can't afford not to get together this year to act. This is why we have to stand together against adversarial internet. On Cybersec Global 2020, 3 days of binge-watching experience, 3 days of thrilling events, like your favorite TV series, but this time it is a real world, with top cybersecurity actors, most important issues, valuable insights, and top-notch thrilling plot. You can't miss it! This time, everything will happen in cyberspace. Cybersec Global 2020, the one and only binge conferencing experience online. And don't forget your coffee.